So Jared,
So Josh,
why doesn't Dracula ever date?
this is gonna be a good one.
I don't know if it's that good.
He doesn't need to. He has many. He has many brides. I don't know. Why doesn't he date?
But never a bridesmaid.
Never a bridesmaid. Yeah.
Nah, because his profile says he's 30, but no one's buying it.
That is, yeah. Very much so. I like that one.
Yeah.
That's good.
Hey, welcome back to Screen Time Film, a podcast where we take a director and review his filmography in chronological order. We're currently going through Francis Ford Coppola. We're getting in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Of his. And today we are going to discuss Dracula. My name is Josh, and Jared, I've crossed oceans of time to podcast with you.
Oh, yes. So sweet of you.
Yeah. This is my co-host, Jared.
Josh, do not let your eyes see or your ears hear that which you cannot account for.
So true. So true.
Yeah. Wise words from Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm.
From Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yes. So, this film, Bram Stoker's Dracula, to be specific, came out in 1992, rated R, 2 hours and 8 minutes. All right. The centuries-old vampire Count Dracula comes to England to seduce his barrister Jonathan Harker's fiancée Mina Murray and inflict havoc in the foreign land.
Yes. A lot of crazy names there.
Yes. All right. So writers are Bram Stoker and James V. Hart.
Okay.
Cinematographer is Michael Ballhaus.
Yep.
He did Goodfellas and Gangs of New York and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Yeah. He's in a lot of good stuff.
He's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I have one here, After Hours, which is a Scorsese movie I really like. Age of Innocence, Outbreak. Let's see. Yeah, Gangs of New York, like you said, that's a big one. Air Force One and The Departed is another one.
Yeah.
So with Scorsese a few times, which is cool.
Several.
Yeah. Yeah, at least 3, actually, yeah. What about Bob? Have that on there too?
Yes. That was
a classic.
Classic, yeah.
Yeah.
It's known for its cinematography.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know. Last time I watched it, wasn't really didn't really have an eye for that at all.
Music by Wajik.
Good luck with his name.
Killer.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Production costs. What do you think?
Oh,
Drum
yeah.
roll.
This one's going to be a lot. A lot of sets, a lot of imagery.
Okay.
Lots of actors too. And we are in 92.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go 50 million.
No, 40.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Not bad.
All right. And then Academy Awards. Winner of Best Costume Design. Winner of Best Effects and Sound Effects Editing. Winner of Best Makeup. And then nominee for Best Art Direction, Set Direction. Did not win that one.
Okay. All right. That's good though.
Yeah.
Some good wins.
All right. So we've got, like you mentioned earlier, pretty big cast here of people that are talented and well known. So I have Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves, Richard E. Grant, Carrie Ellis, Billy Campbell, Sadie Frost, Tom Watts, Monica Bellucci.
Tom Waits.
Yeah, sorry. I always say that wrong, I think.
I know, yeah.
Tom Waits.
It's the Francis Ford Coppola staple.
Yeah, and then Monica Bellucci.
Oh, yeah.
It's everybody I noticed. Anybody you?
No, I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it that I didn't write down anyone extra.
All right. So overall thoughts.
Yeah, so I I realized watching this, like I have not seen this.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed it though. It's very atmospheric and dark, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
The tone was really good. I had a lot of really cool imagery, which I'm sure we'll get into. Unless you hated it, maybe you won't want to talk about it. The only thing, like, kind of a big overall issue that, like, I didn't really like as much is that it seemed like it seemed like at times Coppola was trying to get you to have some sympathy for Dracula.
Okay. Yeah.
Which he doesn't really need that. I mean, he's not sympathetic at all as a character. So that was the only thing. It seemed like it was a little bit of that at times, which is not really keeping with the original story, at least as far as I know. So that was the only thing. But yeah, overall, I really liked it though.
So you say original story, are you talking about just like historically what you know of the Dracula story?
Yeah, and from other adaptations and
but
yeah.
I don't know this. I've never read this book.
No,
so it might be what the angle this book takes. So he might just sticking
Could be
to the adaptation.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I did see this one time, like a long time ago.
So you recognize
Like there was
some stuff
plenty
in
of
it?
stuff in it I recognized. Yeah.
Yeah, I did, and that's why I was like, okay, I don't think I've
But but overall I didn't really care for this film.
Really?
I think it was I feel like the story wise, and I don't know if this is because of the book or how they decided to adapt the book.
Yeah.
Like story wise, it was like just messy, messy. And then I think there was a lot of like trying hard to be artsy instead of just doing what was like should have been done.
Okay.
But then I think there's also a lot of little things here and there that are really cool and done well.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, and then you have the talented actors doing some stuff in here.
Oh yeah.
And then I do think, so I think my favorite part of the film was like the final like act part of it. Like I think like where it came together was there. But it was so messy in the middle that like so as an example, it's barely over 2 hours.
Yeah.
This film felt like it was 3 to me because I was just like, what are we doing?
I could see that some in the middle section, like you were saying. That's where it seemed to be kind of a little messy, but I think it had a really strong start and end.
And then
you're saying it kind of felt like it dragged, or just pacing wise a little bit.
Yeah, and just the decision of the way they had, like the Winona Ryder and what's the other lady's name? Sadie Frost.
Yeah.
Like soon after we have that. So let's get into it.
Yeah, sure.
Because like I'm sorry, but right after we have the opening stuff, which we can talk about the opening in a minute, but
yes,
and then we cut to like present day, and it's basically them and their little and like their interaction, the way they're acting, and I know that's not the least like Winona. I'm not as familiar with the other lady, but
yeah,
Winona Ryder. It's not her acting ability. It's the way like they decided, whether it was a director's choice or whatever, the way they decided they wanted them to be, and it's like so weird and like silly and goofy, and I don't know. Like there was so much of that kind of stuff that the way they were being and then even the sexualization that they kind of do, and a lot of it that have felt so inauthentic and just weird.
Okay.
And like to me, and watching it, I was like, so we're just having them be this way just because you want to have like women being sexy. Like that's basically like that's what it felt like. It didn't feel like it really felt natural serving the story. It felt very like just like well, let's put this imagery in here because it'll put butts in the seats or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. Anyway, that's some of the stuff that's like, I was just like, didn't care for. And of course, on top of that, having a bunch of Americans do British accents, not a good idea.
Sure. Yeah. That's always
Keanu Reeves. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's always
They wanted to write it. Both of them, like, their accents were not. And they,
yeah. As far as like the sexual nature or over sexualized nature or like the seduction and all that, like that's a big point of this story though. So like I think it had to have been done, but you're saying
I understand.
And it was too much.
I understand that. I think there was a way to go about it, making it
Sure.
feel much more much more authentic. I think it's like felt inauthentic, like all of a sudden just for no reason that was explained visually or verbally why all of a sudden these women would feel this way. Like it really wasn't given like world building around that.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, there is at points where it kind of comes out of nowhere for both of them,
Mm-hmm.
especially the other one. I forget her name.
In the Lucy.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I could see your point with that. And it is a little, the sexualization in general is definitely over the top at times,
Mm-hmm.
which also he might have just wanted to do, like you mentioned, just to get people there. I mean, that could be a part of it. There were certain moments with that though I thought were really cool. I'll point out a few scenes when we get to it, but I can see where you're coming from.
Well, I think, and it's more for me for the Winona Ryder and Sadie Frost characters.
Yeah.
Like the stuff with the three ladies, which I guess Monica Bellucci was one of the three.
Yeah.
Those that felt like they were seductresses that were like, and that kind of felt right. And it didn't feel out of place as much, like when they would, it's almost like they were enticing the man that was, whichever time it was. And so that didn't bother as much. I felt like that was more on point, but
yeah, they seem very true to how they would be from the story. Yeah.
But yeah. But backing up a little bit. So the opening stuff, like stuff from like 400 years prior or whatever.
Yep. We get the voiceover. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that, like, I think in general, the opening wasn't bad, but I feel like the voiceover, because then you get the voiceover with Keanu Reeves' character, like, as like, and I was like, to me, this felt like Apocalypse Now over again. With like the log, like captain's log kind of.
Oh,
like,
you had that feel to it?
Yeah,
okay.
and I was like, okay, this is not, I don't.
Well, Anthony Hopkins doing it definitely helps.
The parts he was doing in the beginning.
In the beginning. Yeah.
Like
with his voiceover.
I still don't think that, I feel like it was relied on too much. Like, I think this, all that stuff in the setup could have been done much better just by like showing and not telling. And
yeah,
it's like
there's a lot they had to cover too. That's like in a very condensed
but
opening.
I think it's doable.
Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't need a little bit, but it's like, it was so much voiceover there in the beginning that it was like, oh, you just decided to go the easy route.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that intro though, I thought the part where you're seeing that opening battle, I thought visually was really interesting and looked cool. And they did in like a unique way.
Silhouettes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked all that, but then the actual title of the film looked bad. That was the part I was like, oh. But yeah, overall I did like the intro though.
No, yeah, the visual stuff, like, other than the title, yeah, you're right. The title looked a little bad, but the other stuff and then him like stabbing the cross with his sword and blood coming out that was cool imagery. Kind of a premise of setting him up for what he basically did and how he ended up like, but like did we need, like, for in reality, did we need any of the voiceover? Like, if
No, you're right.
like if
Just
all you had
visually
to
could
do
have told
is
that
a little
story.
bit of dialogue between the bride, was her name also the same? I don't remember if
Oh, the original Bride.
yeah, is her name the same as the Mina? Was she Mina back then? I can't remember. But
I can't remember. Yeah.
anyway, her and Dracula, which his name was something different then too.
Yeah.
But like you could have interaction of them, like, you know, and I think they had a little bit of dialogue, but like just enough
Very
to be
little,
like,
yeah.
hey, don't go, you know, you know, like whatever. And then he goes, and then, you know, she gets the letter, and then she commits suicide because she thinks he's dead,
Yes.
and she can't live anymore. And then he comes back. Like, do you like? I think you could set all that up, and don't need the voiceover.
Yeah. I agree. It could have just been done mostly visual, like you're saying. Yeah.
I think I don't know. It felt like a cheat to me.
Well, and I think now, which this will lead into my next note, I think now it would have been done mostly visual if it was
Oh yeah,
a newer film. And I was saying there's a lot of moments in this. I don't know if he's talked about, but Robert Eggers, it definitely seemed like he took some stuff from this for Nosferatu. I haven't seen any interviews. He's done a lot of interviews recently, so I'm curious if he mentions this movie in particular. But there's definitely, I noticed elements just from, I haven't seen Nosferatu yet, but even just some stuff from the trailer and brief bit that I've heard about the movie,
yeah,
definitely seems to be some inspiration from this, which is cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I go. I guess I'm always more in the camp of Villeneuve's camp of like dialogue is only when needed, not, and if you can do it all. And I think my style also fits in that. And
Yes.
so like it's just what I kind of believe more in.
Especially if you're like a master at it, like Villeneuve, and I would say even further than him, George Miller, a great example from Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
He is fully in that camp of showing, not telling, for sure. I had the cast-wise or performances, just have two in general that I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
And one that it seemed like, from what I've heard about this movie, it seemed like almost everyone, and you kind of mentioned some of it, about Keanu Reeves, his performance not being good in this. I didn't think it was that bad. I liked him in this movie still. I mean, we know he can be good. This is just a weird role. I think a lot of it is what you were saying, the voice of him having to do the accent, I think, is what kind of brings it down some. But the two that I wanted to point out, I mean, number one, Gary Oldman, like incredibly good in this.
Yes.
As Dracula. And I thought Winona Ryder was also, and we know how good she can be anyway, but I liked her in this too. I thought she had a very good performance. Gary Oldman, though, especially like he has such a big presence in general, which he needs to for Dracula. I thought he was great.
And all the range he needed to have from like when he's like normal looking versus
when he first
old
comes
looking,
to,
and then like even goes back to the one, you know.
Yeah, you see a lot of different points in his life. Because I'm wondering in this, I don't think they say like how many years total, like how old he actually is. I don't think they mention it,
been
but
like little, or I mean 400.
Yeah, you see when
whatever.
like,
I mean, how old was he when
he first comes to?
It says 400 years later. Like
Did it say that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, after. So like basically he's 440 or something. I don't know. Like it said 400 years later after like the opening to like the present day. So yeah.
Did you have any? Yeah. Did you have any standout as far as performances?
I mean him, and I mean Anthony Hopkins is all right. Like I mean he's never, but like I feel like I've seen him in better stuff. Like I don't think they gave him a lot to do.
I agree. It's kind of a, like when I first found out, I'm like, oh, he's Van Helsing. Like kind of a strange like character to pick.
Well, also the way they the version of him in this is very different. He's more like a scientist
Yes.
than he is a vampire
Killer. Yeah.
Because I mean, we've definitely seen it where
Hugh Jackman and
he's more like
Van
just
Helsing
like
is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think so. So I think there's two things that. So again, like there's such a weird. I have this such weird mixed thing for this film because
No, this is great because like I like when we don't agree completely because I'm definitely higher on this movie than you.
So because
I'm curious.
One of the things you didn't. But the funny thing is, one of the things you didn't like is what I liked. Like I thought it was interesting that they were able to balance, and actually there were moments where I did feel bad for Dracula. And
so you like the nuance of
like I liked that, and I liked that that Gary. I mean, I think a lot of it goes to Gary Oldman's performance of being able to come across that way. And I think it's interesting because also some of that, and then also the kind of wrestling of love and what it means, and like love and obsession, like that kind of balance there.
That's a huge
and I think
theme.
That theme in there is also interesting. But then again, some of it, like, I don't think it was executed on well, where like, even the time when he shows back up in present day London and looks normal instead of like why all of a sudden can he look normal and not like I said, the world building was bad. Like that kind of stuff didn't make any sense. And the same
that
thing
part was confusing. Yeah.
And then why she all of a sudden just like is drawn to him, like didn't feel believable.
Well, you see that visually illustrated at different points in the film with why she's or how and why she's drawn to him.
Like in what way? Like
so like with the shadow, which I mean, when we get into cinematography, like I mean, I'll have a lot to say about the shadows because it's so cool how they play with that in this movie. But so there's that. There is, I mean, even just when he first like locks eyes with her, so like he has that power, which I assume is a traditional thing with like the character anyway.
So that what
like
I'm supposed to understand is he has some kind of superpower.
Essentially
that allows him to like.
I mean, that's baked into the character. Yeah.
Is that ever explained or
no,
told?
No, it's not.
And I don't
not
think
this movie.
And I don't think it's obvious to me. At least to me, it didn't come across that way. And that was not the thing. It didn't feel like it. Like I feel like again nowadays they would have either communicated that in like some kind of like explanation of world building, like by somebody else and explaining the powers that he has, or they would visually like represent it by something so that you knew he was doing something to her that was making it that way, right? Does that?
Oh yeah.
Like there would be something. I mean, I think of like the like sonar effect that they do for Daredevil. Like they would do something. Now I think sometimes that's cheesy. I think the easier thing is just like be simple. Just have somebody explain it in a natural way, and some point early in the story. So then when it starts happening, you know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that never happened. So then I'm always like, why? I don't know. I just like, it just fell off to me that she was so drawn to him when she was so in love with her fiance.
Jonathan Hart. Yeah. Yeah.
Up until that point. So like, it just didn't, it's like, and it's just like, she didn't even really fight it. Like it was not even like
no. But I think that's the argument is it's like his power is so strong that like she has no control. I mean, it's at that point trying to resist him. It's funny you mentioned like not having to over explain it. Basically like the whole thing we always talk about with movies and TV is like how much do you respect the audience, like how much do you think how smart is the audience that they'll be able to pick up on this kind of stuff. And I think this was done, it's kind of mixed because this is done a lot more in older films, and nowadays I would say it's certain probably directors and how much the studio meddles in the making of it, but there seems to be more movies nowadays that just like it's over exposition and overly explains to it's like, okay, we get it, like, and they go too far with it.
Yeah. No, I don't think you need
which is like you don't want that either.
I don't want that.
No.
But I think this.
But they went too far the other way.
This film, like, they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, so again, I don't want to keep harping on the same thing, but like, they didn't explain that stuff, but then they put so much voiceover in there to try to make sense of the story, because the story is so convoluted that you're seeing, but yet they can't do a small little like, hey, watch out because he can draw you in and make you want him lust or something. Like there's that a small dialogue thing would take care of that somewhere, or you can easily put that in there somewhere. So
I think it's more. It seems like this movie would work more for people that are more familiar with Dracula lore in general, since they don't explain that stuff as much.
Okay,
and I don't know like a ton about it, but
so like the other thing was like, where the heck did the wolf thing come from? The werewolf
that I don't know. That's a great point. That was confusing. Yes, I didn't really like that part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But no, I'm glad you're harping on this, because this is interesting and trying to figure out what's the balance, with very like important plot elements to the movie. You want to come across as best as possible to where audience understands, but like we said, not over explain it where you like they think the audience is dumb. You want a good balance of
yeah. I don't know. Like I think the simplest way to put it is, I think most of the voiceover stuff you could have taken out. And,
yeah, I agree.
And you would, even Keanu Reeves stuff, and you would probably know the same amount about the story as like they would be the same. So like you could lose all that. So like for some reason they put a lot of stuff in, and yet then they didn't do really some good basic world building and explaining. Not to get on side, but like,
no, go ahead.
Well, like I was just thinking about the Dune TV show, and like they definitely missed some of that on there, but I think they still did a better job than this. This film's like basically not doing it at all.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's still enough with this. Again, if you know at least loosely the Dracula Nosferatu story, then I think it's easier to understand this film. But I do agree there are moments like the wolf or werewolf, for example. I didn't really understand that whole part of it. So,
yeah. I would have gone into this saying I'm familiar with Dracula in general.
Right, yeah.
And
I figure you know somewhat,
but
loosely
I still
the
felt
lore.
like this was very messy.
Okay.
One thing that would be is when the whole stuff happened with the mirror and stuff, when he's like, and honestly, I think that scene was a great scene.
Yes.
Where then the tension of him like helping him shave.
Yeah.
Like that was great. So there's like little moments in there of this film like that I'm like love, like that. Like there's scenes like that I really like. And then there's some visuals that I really like, and then there's stuff that I'm like didn't like, and then there's and then just the overall, again, the messiness to me, that it was just like this. It was just like, because when it's all said and done, I'm like, I don't know how this thing got made. Like honestly, like I don't know how they gave him $40 million to do this thing. Like,
yeah, I wonder how.
Because to me, like the script on paper was like a mess. That's what like that's where.
I wonder how much the studio involved in it, like tampered with it too. Although at this point, probably I can't imagine that much, like because we're already well into Francis Ford Coppola's notoriety and like fame, that I imagine at this point, well, even straight after his run in the 70s, they're just like, just let him go do his thing, whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
The other thing on the, like,
yeah,
this is 92 now.
Mm-hmm.
This film still, to me, from like a production standpoint, like, when did like Jurassic Park?
Yeah, it was like 93 or 94.
Yeah, it was only like a few years after this, and like visually as a film, like
still holds up incredibly well.
Yeah, or I mean, what, all the Indiana Jones, well, not the three original ones
Yep.
were out by this point. All production stand. I mean, and I mean, yeah, they might have been a little bit more, but I can't imagine. I mean, most movies back then weren't. I mean, it's not like the $100 to $200 million that they spend now.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is again the 80s and 90s. All this, the three Star Wars films were out. I mean, like,
Yeah.
there's just like a lack of, and which is why I was surprised. But I think like I was surprised it won, but it was one for like sound, which is one of my notes. The sound effects in this were amazing.
Oh yeah.
I think that
Sound in general was
sound
really
design
great in
was
this.
really good, and that was like impressive and really carried a lot.
Well, and then the other thing it won, it was more costume, right? Was the
Yeah,
the win? Yeah. So like that, but I don't know.
best costume, best sound effects,
Yeah, that makes sense.
editing, and then best makeup.
Okay, yeah. So
Yes, and all that stuff makes sense.
yeah, it for sure. And I do agree with you somewhat on just like certain aspects of it look dated. Not like obviously, I mean, this is a period piece, but like not in that aspect,
Well,
but like looked old. But there were certain moments and certain sets, I'll mention a few when we get to it, like that I think were really great and really fit the really dark atmospheric tone of it. I thought really well.
So yeah,
Especially at the end, like you meant, yeah.
but
There's some stuff at the
but
end.
yeah, the half the sets felt like sets,
Yes,
and I was like, oh,
I agree.
like just bad set design, I guess, or production design. I don't know what you want to call that.
Yeah, it could also be the limitation. I mean, 40 million at this point. You don't know how much just went even just to all the actors. You don't know what kind of.
Yeah,
They might have had some limitation budget wise with what they could do. I don't know.
yep. All right, so let's get into cinematography.
Oh, that's it of your notes? With
Pretty
the
much,
story?
yeah.
Okay. Oh, I got a few more things.
Okay. I mean, I have a
I
few
thought you
other
were still
things.
gonna have.
No. I mean, okay. So you got some others. Well, I was just like,
Well, that's good. We're kind of just going overall with the story.
We're kind of going around and that about.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a note about. Also, thought it was weird that Mino, I guess, was reincarnated. I mean, like that's not even discussed. Like,
Yeah,
like
that was crazy.
is she supposed to like, I guess, be the same person? You know, I don't know. But,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she looked different. Well,
I mean, it's the same actress.
yeah, it was the same.
I mean, Winona Ryder plays his bride in the beginning.
That's true. Yeah.
So like
Yeah. I wanted to.
I almost think it would have been, I don't know, like better. Like is like obviously it's
To get
like a
someone else?
doppelganger. Like had somebody else play the opening role that looks like
Looks
her,
like her,
but
yeah.
not the same. And then it'd be like, oh, it's the long descendant, but like that's not even mentioned. There's nothing
No.
mentioned about that either. Of course, I guess she would have to have a kid to be descendant, but like, you know, anyway, it's just anyway.
Well, just the first interaction with Jonathan and Dracula when he first gets to the castle. I thought this was portrayed really well. Like immediately you see like the dynamic between them, and I thought this was a great scene to kind of set that up for how both of them play off each other, but just how ultimately, I mean, Dracula holds all the power. I also want to mention Cary Elwes as Arthur. I mean, you and I both like him anyway, but it's kind of hard sometimes to not picture him as his character in Princess Bride mainly, but also Robin Hood Men in Tights, because that was right around this time. Princess Bride was 87, but Men in Tights, I think, was 93 or was right around the same time.
It's hard to take him seriously because in both those he's so sarcastic.
Yes,
and which is why I like him. In
yeah, and he's
roles.
very serious in this.
He
Yeah,
tried to be very serious, and you're like, it's hard to
yeah. But then Richard E. Grant as Dr. Seward, I liked him. I almost didn't realize it was him at first because I'm used to seeing him old. I mean, you just saw him in the franchise.
Yeah.
Great actor. I've always liked him, but in this, I was like, because I saw he was in the credits, and took me a little bit to. I could finally hear it in his voice.
Yeah.
But like, man, he looks way different even at this point. But I liked him too. So that's a good example. So his kind of, which I don't know, weird. I guess it was experiments, but like some of those people had like cages on their heads and stuff in his
Yeah.
I don't know, lab or whatever you want to call it. But I thought that all looked really good. Oh, because that was also where Renfield is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is Tom Waits.
Yeah. Which also was like a useless role, but
Yeah, I don't really like him in any of the Coppola movies. Like
no, but I'm saying like that character.
But I agree, yeah.
Like,
I mean, Renfield, the name, and like it's a very important character, but I agree what they did.
Right. In other stories,
Yes.
but this story, he played no point like whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. The other one I wanted to.
So the thing, one thing I was just thinking about with that, and maybe when we check trivia, because we never check trivia ahead of time.
Right.
So the only thing I would say is if the script and the film ended up being like a 3-hour film and the studio made them cut it down to 2 hours and 8 minutes, then people like that, you suddenly like, what are the point they hear? And then maybe some of the stuff that like helped explain things a little bit better, like were completely cut out.
True. It could be the case. He wanted to do it. He wanted to do an epic like Godfather length of this movie. And the studio was like, no.
So I don't know, but that
I'd be curious of that. I haven't seen anything about, because a lot of his movies he has different
director's cuts,
or different versions, and I didn't see anything for this one, any alternate versions, because I was curious about that as well. One of the other scenes that is a standout, which we briefly touched on, but I thought was really great, was when Jonathan lays down in the giant bed. And you hear a voice and you see these footprints walking towards him, but you don't actually see the person yet. And then, of course, that's Monica Bellucci as one of the Dracula brides. The way she comes up from like inside the bed, like this was all really cool. I thought was really, really well done. Very cool imagery. I just have a note about, this portrays it really well in this scene, but just seduction being such a huge theme and a part of this movie, but in Dracula and lore in general. And this scene was just I thought was really cool. And this is a good example in mentioning like very specific dark atmospheric tone that showed like really well in this scene. So this was a cool scene.
Yeah.
And then I did like the voyage of the Demeter or Demeter, I don't know how you say it, the ship was cool. And and then Dracula first gets to London. By the way, there is another reason why I was more familiar with it was, I believe last year there was a movie called The Voyage of the Demeter or Demeter, and the movie's just about that travel like to London. And I haven't seen it, but I'm interested in it to see how they did it, 'cause it's literally just that, and they had to like cram that into this movie. But I liked the imagery there, especially when he first gets to London. It's a really cool shot. This kind of gets into cinematography, and you might have this down too. Really cool shot where the boy hands him a newspaper and he's holding it, and you see it in the reflection of the store, and it's just that right, because he doesn't have a reflection. And I thought that was a really cool way they did that too. I like that. Yeah,
and like that when they're in like the exterior like that, the set or whatever. Like that looked a lot better there too.
Oh, in like London, yeah, the outside, yeah,
the outside stuff.
That looks really good. Yeah,
it's like when they're that outside garden that's supposed to be outside the house, and then the house itself. They were pretty.
Yeah,
felt like a studio lot and not.
So then so is this one? I think it's the imagery of Lucy when she's undead and all white. Is that actually Lucy?
Yes,
it is. Yeah, right towards the end. Really cool design. First of all, this is gonna be a deep cut, but it really reminded me of the game Bloodborne, which is one of my favorite games of all time, but there's a character in that called the Thumerian Queen. Looks almost identical to this reincarnation of her. And so I'm curious if they had some inspiration. I mean, Bloodborne came out in 2015, so way later, but really cool. Like, and I always thought the design was awesome anyway. So seeing it in this was like, oh, this is and not something I've seen in other Dracula movies or miniseries before. Because there was a miniseries. The most recent thing I've seen was a 3-episode British miniseries they did on Dracula.
Okay.
A few years ago, and that one was done pretty well. And then there was a big run of it in Penny Dreadful. I don't know if you ever watched.
Oh yeah,
that show.
I didn't, but yeah, I know.
It was cool in that too. They did a whole section with that, but and then just very last thing was just kind of funny and out of nowhere, but it makes sense to the end of the story. But Van Helsing just coming in hot and beheading all 3 of Dracula's brides when they're sleeping, I thought was just a great scene, and then just throws them off the cliff. But that was great.
Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about the cinematography a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think, well, a couple things that I'd like. So they definitely did that like very heavy shadow for all the like gothic atmosphere that when they would want to.
And the architecture.
Yeah. I think that was done well and very intentional. Also, like the more red tint lighting they would always put on Dracula and kind of giving the bloodlust.
Yeah, there was. I'm glad you pointed that out, because the red imagery in general was pretty prominent in a lot of places that I thought were really good, and even like an outfit that was red, a costume, or like you said, the red lighting at times. There was a few other instances I can't remember off the top of my head, but that just had like a really cool contrast to like whatever else is in the scene or frame. So yeah, I liked that a lot too.
Also liked the so most of the day scenes were kind of lit more natural versus the artificial lighting feel of like the night and gothic looking stuff with Dracula.
Yeah.
The day stuff was, Did like when I guess it was either animals or the wolf. I don't know. Like again, it's confusing, but it was a cool shot where like they would do the POV, sped up POV thing.
Yeah. It was the Evil Dead popularized that first, I want to say. The first Evil Dead. Yeah. Yeah. I always like those. Which also, it's cool because it's a combination of, it's a POV, but then is that essentially what they're doing? They're just speeding up the footage to get that fast feel? Okay.
Really, cool. Really just, it's just a camera moving.
Yeah.
With nobody in the shot. So like you're, I mean, because really it's a sense of POV, but it's just because you don't have anybody and framed to like, but then, and then they're kind of like speeding it up or, and then so this was one of the things where I think there were some cool ones of these, but then there's so many like creative transitions, the best way to call them. And I think some of them were good, but like some of them were a little weird. And then I think there were so many of them, they were just like too many, like they overdid it.
Yeah, there were a lot. Yeah. There was some I did notice that were really, like you said, there are some really cool transition ones, but you're right. There is a lot of them, and some of them were, maybe shouldn't have been done.
We're just, it's just like overdone and just like, hey, just do the ones that are really strong, and then just like cut normal cuts.
Yep,
are fine. And then I just thought a lot of the mirror shots and stuff with Dracula, and like you said, the either in the window or different. There was just a lot of times and that attention to detail and
Mm-hmm.
Adding complication, because that's not as easy to do.
Nope.
It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my only other thing is with cinematography is just, the way they play with shadows in general was really good in this, which is very important to this kind of movie.
And I did like the way they would use, like they'd have like the moving shadow.
Yeah.
That was like, I'm really just a shadow puppet, but like,
yeah,
but like effectively used it as like seeing him move in a room that even though he's not there.
Yeah, or the really big shadow at times where you see in the background. Yeah, it was a really, really cool effect. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, we know this guy he's done a lot of good movies.
Yeah.
Like interesting cinematography wise too, and composition.
Yeah, which is like, on one hand, I want to say, because like, I mean, like you take a film like Goodfellas and you're like,
yeah,
that's like a masterpiece of camera work. And then like this, I would say like, it's not, there's some things are interesting, but like all in all, like it was not that.
Sure. Yeah. Especially if you're comparing it to, Goodfellas. Yeah, definitely.
So it goes to show you how much even, a director makes a difference on like what they're wanting and asking for. Right.
Oh yeah.
So, let's go ahead. General notes on cinematography.
Yeah, that's all I have for cinematography.
What about the score, the music?
Yeah, I'm not going to pronounce the composer's name because I don't want to butcher it. I looked up his IMDb. He's done a ton of films. Nothing I recognize though, which was interesting. But I thought the score was really sick. Like it.
Yeah.
Like really, so there's a lot of strings, cello in particular, which fits the feel really well. So I love that. But the other main instrument that I love they added in this is the Celeste or Celesta. It's kind of a bell sounding piano. I guess the best way to describe it for you that you heard is the main theme from Harry Potter. It's that sound.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
It's very much more of a bell sound, but it's a piano. I love that instrument anyways. I've used it a lot before. But I like the use of that. And it wasn't done too much in the movie, but it was done in very, very good parts. But yeah, I thought this was really good. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely
This stood out to you a little more?
Yeah, times but in a good way. And like you could, again, it was doing some lifting of creating atmosphere and emotion and times.
Oh yeah.
So I thought, it seemed reasonable. Now, at the same time, like, wouldn't say like it was stuck in my head after. Just
No.
like I would say like a really good score in a film or show, like you just almost like it's like, gives you those feelings, and you kind of can hear it or think about it after. But
yeah,
but still pretty decent.
Yeah, I liked it.
All right, themes and messages.
I don't know. Besides the seduction in general, I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
So one thing we didn't talk on too much, is the religious iconography.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of a big theme in here is like almost like good versus evil.
Yes.
Very, because obviously he's almost portrayed as like the evil and was like religious and then like went against it intentionally because he felt like the church had basically failed him and didn't like save his loved one and whatever.
Well, and you see that very prominent at the end of the movie with Van Helsing, right?
Yep.
Like, forget the line, but he's saying it over and over again. Holding out the cross and all that to the I guess this would have been the what's her name? Lucy?
Mm-hmm.
The reincarnated
Oh, no, Mina.
Lucy.
Mina.
Oh, that was Mina that time. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty prominent, especially in the ending.
Yeah, and then what else I wrote down? Just and then the kind of like the consequences of obsession, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
Yes, I think there was like a lot of that versus love, and like true love is not obsession, and like the
Yeah, very big difference. And what does that look like?
Control, and like that kind of goes along with obsession.
Yeah,
I think there's that in there as well.
definitely.
All right, well, let's
Yeah, I'm curious
little
about
trivia
this
here.
Trivia, yeah.
So Prince Vlad's scream after he drives the sword into the cross is not Gary Oldman's voice. It's instead the singer of the punk band The Cramps. They dubbed it in.
Nice.
That was like the top trivia. On the DVD commentary, Coppola says that Mina and Harker's wedding was a reshoot done at Los Angeles Greek Orthodox Church. They filmed the entire ceremony with a genuine Romanian Orthodox minister and realized afterwards that Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves may have really been married to each other, not in any legal sense, but under the eyes of God, as Ryder claims.
All right, the whole actual ceremony.
Yeah, because they went through the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that. I mean, I don't know if you agree or not, but that was kind of a scene that didn't seem like we needed to see this wedding. Yeah.
Yeah. At first, the cast meeting called by the producer and director, he got all the principal actors and actresses to read the entire novel of Bram Stoker out loud to get a feel for the story, according to Sir Anthony Hopkins. It took 2 whole days to complete.
I wonder how big is that book? I don't know.
During the shaving scene,
Mm-hmm.
the walls of the set gradually move inward to create a subliminal growing sense of claustrophobia.
Oh, that's a cool.
Didn't notice
it's a cool effect.
Yeah.
Or a good idea.
Gary Oldman hired a singing coach to help him lower his voice by an octave to help him give Dracula more sinister quality.
Mm. Yeah, speaking of that, it's have you seen Bill Skarsgård talk about what he did with his voice for Nosferatu? Like there's a lot of talk of that.
Haven't done anything with Nosferatu.
Well, I haven't heard him because he doesn't say anything in the trailer like they're like intentionally holding it back for the film.
Yeah.
But I don't know, he's getting a lot of praise. His not only his performance but his voice in that movie.
It was funny. Gary Oldman said when he first read the script, he said it would be worth doing the movie just so he could say the line, "I've crossed oceans of time to find you."
Oh yeah. I mean, as soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, that's a very iconic line. Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to say he just took the role just so he'd said, yeah, I played Dracula. Just being able to say that, it's pretty sick.
Mm-hmm. The child that's carried in by Lucy when she's like undead was very scared of her and didn't want to do more than one take, and they had to do a lot of sweet talking to get her to.
That was unexpected and cool imagery as well. Her holding the child. That was a cool scene.
They shot her getting in and out of the crypt. They shot in reverse to give it an eerie quality.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it seems like.
Not as much as I thought there would be for
It
trivia.
says Gary Oldman was drunk the night they filmed the scene where he had to lick blood from Keanu Reeves' straight razor.
Yeah, he went really hard in that scene when he did that.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves said years after this movie came out that he wasn't happy with his work in it, stating he had been exhausted from making several movies right on the heels of signing on as Jonathan Harker, and that he tried to raise his energy for the role, but I just didn't have anything left to give.
Yeah, it makes sense. This would have been right around the time of what? Speed?
Yeah. Or
That's what it was. Yeah, he did Bill and Ted. No, that was late 80s maybe. No, maybe early 90s. Yeah, it could have been right around there
Bill
too.
and Ted, and then it was a Point Break.
Point Break, yeah. Yeah, this all would have been around that time. So yeah, he's busy.
All right. Well, final thoughts.
No, just makes me want to see Nosferatu even more. I mean, I already wanted to see it, but very interested in that movie.
I want a better Dracula film.
Yeah,
Interview with the Vampire.
that too.
That's a good one.
That is good.
I actually hear that what is it? There's a TV show that's like.
Oh, Lucifer?
No,
No.
it's a different one. It has vampires. That's recent. It only has like 2 seasons. That's supposed to be pretty good.
I don't know. There's a lot of Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's more recent. Anyway.
Well, like I said, the mini series that they did a couple years ago, I think it was on Netflix. I liked that one. Was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you liked it more than I did.
Yes.
I'm very mixed on this film. But you
Yeah, I like it.
you like it.
I really like the tone, especially,
Yeah.
which really elevated it for me.
Yeah. Cool. Well, next movie is Jack.
Yeah.
Never seen this one.
I don't think I have either. I know the cover or the poster. It's just Robin Williams like jumping or something like that. Yeah. Love Robin Williams. I'm excited for this to see. This is crazy. The tone shift from this movie and then going to Jack, like
True.
he wanted to do something completely different after this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know anything about it though. Do you know what it's?
Nope.
Me either. I don't know what it's about.
But that's all right. We will find out
Yeah.
next week.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
But let us know your thoughts on Bram Stoker's Dracula or other Dracula lore.
Yeah.
You can
A lot of adaptations of this.
Yes. You
in different
can
ways.
email us at feedback@screentimepod.com or like and subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok for now, if it's still
For now,
around.
we'll see. See what happens.
Instagram, all those things. And then if you'd like, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at jyoungbar.
And I'm at Jared Youngbar.
All right. Catch you guys next time.